Hello, pandas, and other people who enjoy scrap metal but don't identify as pandas. It's okay. We can all get along. It's honestly not a big deal. Today I want to talk about brass. Specifically, I want to know if it's actually worth the time it takes to clean it up. That sounds ludicrous, and I know what you're thinking. How could it not be? That, or you're thinking of what to make for dinner tonight. But I can help with that. You should try like a Greek salad, or with some couscous, or like some kind of a grain thing, and maybe some lemon pepper chicken beside it. Or you could grab like a flatbread and make like a mini pizza. The flatbread works a little better than the. Anyway, they're both cheap. They're great options. The other one, I think, I've been enjoying doing these, and I've been surprised at how some things that seem obvious end up being lower value per hour than you might expect. So that's why I've been saving up all of this pile of brass so we can actually check that out together and know for sure. Because it takes time. A lot of these things are really fiddly. These regulators, little faucet heads, things like that, they're full of fiddly little things, little Allen key grub screws and flatheads and press fit stuff. It can take a really long time to clean up your brass. And it's pretty heavy the way it is, so you get a pretty good price just bringing it in dirty. And that's what I'm going to find out today. So I've already separated two obvious bins. One is the nice clean stuff, and this will depend on what your scrapyard considers clean. But mine doesn't mind if it's got some chrome plating or even a little bit of solder. And then the dirty stuff. This is things that could be cleaned up but are almost definitely not worth the time. Sometimes you just know. And then the rest of these bins, these are the ones I'm curious about. So we're going to go through these. I'm going to see how long it takes to clean it all up. We're going to see what the difference is in weight. And then we're going to go find out how much that time was actually worth. Now, some of these will be fast and easy. They're as simple as removing a nylon washer or pulling off a little rubber O-ring. And then others will just want to confirm they are brass, like these things. They look like they were, but sometime with the file reveals they're actually silver inside. But really, most of it will just be removing significant contaminants and checking with the magnet to see if any of it is steel. And that'll go in the steel pile. Now, this is where you lose all your time. Things like this faucet. There's just a lot of steps in disassembling it. This one, for some reason, none of my Allen wrenches actually got a good fit. Sometimes the housing is brass, but this one, the bottom part is just steel. And then the rest of the body will actually be zinc. Thankfully, that means you can just hammer it off. Double check to make sure that's not brass, because it would be good weight if it wasn't, but you can kind of tell by the casting marks that it's probably not. Zinc pile. That ring will actually be brass too. Then we'll get these feed hoses off and a couple bits of brass on them. And here's what we're left with. We've got a small pile of steel over here, a decent pile of zinc, a bunch of clean brass, and a bunch of plastic garbage. Now, I don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'm going to just skip through things and kind of minimize any of the how-to stuff, but I'll point out some of the interesting pieces. These faucets are always put together in a multitude of different ways, but they're generally the same kind of headache. Sometimes you get these really old ones, though, that are almost all brass. Those are the ones that are really worthwhile. Basically just a couple O-rings in that, and it's done. But this one's actually got really good brass content for a new piece.
quick whack with a hammer will make these screws a lot easier to take out. And then, yeah. Pull this and get that plastic sleeve out, and that's pretty much it. Nice clean piece, good weight. Now these pieces, super easy to clean up. Sometimes I find pieces that I'd really like to keep for another purpose, like this chrome-plated brass tube. But that's not why I collected it. Now, these regulators. Bunch of screws in different bits, and then this thing. Well, we have to get it off because there's a steel spring and a rubber gasket and a bunch of different stuff, but there we are. This is pretty much clean, but there will be one more steel spring in there. Now it's clean. And this piece is actually zinc. I've seen them brass before, but there. Now there's plenty more of these, so I'll just go ahead and done. Dump this thing out, and I will pull out all the pieces that are actually clean. There's a few pieces that don't need any work, like this one. Nice and easy. And then there are some pieces that I already know are not going to be worth the time to clean up, which is really difficult. Like this one here, this ball valve. Some work, some don't, but these smaller ones tend to be really difficult to actually crack open. Here's something a lot of folks will recognize. This is the gas regulator from a barbecue. Sometimes they're not too hard to get the screws out, but these ones were countersunk and, yeah, going in is dirty. Here's another one of those ball valves. And you can see it is threaded together. So stick that in the vise just like the regulator. And, well, I really gave it the business, but it was not going to budge. So that's why I don't really think they're worth the time trying. You lose a lot of time failing to open these things. These little garden hose valves, though, these ones are actually a lot easier. There, a couple taps and it's done. Get that screw and gasket off, and there. Now, a couple of these do look like they could go in as red brass. It's definitely worth keeping your red brass separate because it is worth more, but I get so little of it. Now here's some more pieces that I am not going to bother with. Some more ball valves, and this thing just has a couple aluminum fittings on the end. Now here's another piece. It might be worth getting that brass nut off the end, but for me, I just find them kind of annoying, so I don't stress over it. Here's another example. So it feels kind of bad scrapping stuff like this, and I know a lot of people say you can sell it, it's probably vintage, but as cute as it is, all it's going to do is sit there. I don't light stick candles. Now here's a couple pieces with some steel stuck on, and for this, the vise and a pipe wrench are your best friend. I'm so glad I picked this thing up. It makes real easy work out of a bunch of stuff that would have been really difficult otherwise. So there we go. Steel pipe, clean piece of brass. And again, just surprisingly easy to get this thing moving. There we go. Gross. Ah, now these, the little spouts from water heaters. There's a few steps to these. I think the trick is just having the biggest, chunkiest vise you have and the biggest hammer you've got. Because there's a piece of brass you need to break off inside there. And then to push the other bit through, you kind of have to overcome a spring. And I don't know. I just don't have the right punches or something. So I'll cut the sides to open it up a bit. And it can be done. Ammo brass is kind of its own thing, because each of the casings has that primer, and there's not much I can do about that. Now, the doorknobs, I'm going to save those. I don't know, I'll figure something out. This gnarly looking piece is actually brass, but it was buried, so that's why it looks so gross. Still good though. This fuel lamp. It's got a steel ring, steel stabilizer ring on the bottom there, but the rest of it is pure brass. Silver plated, but we're not going to worry about that. Now these pieces are kind of whatever, but while I was giving it a whack with the hammer to try and make it easier to turn, I found that these compression fittings, or whatever you want to call them, they just come right off. So that was a fun discovery and definitely saved me some time. This articulating faucet had lots of fun, interesting elements to disassembly. But a few different strategies, a bit of hammer, and yeah, we got those plastic carbon fiber pieces off the brass. Nice little tube. And this beautiful thing. Kind of feels bad, but it's just scrap metal in this garage. So this head I don't think was original. It's kind of annoying. But we got it off with some hammer action. It's just pure plastic. The rest of it, however, pretty much the entire thing, was pure brass the whole way down. Now this pipe, I would kind of like to save. But I don't have any use for it. So even the handle and the hose were all brass. Decent yield, for sure.
Whew. All right, we're all done. Now, that is 2 nice, beautiful buckets of clean brass and 1 remaining bucket, a pretty small amount, of dirty brass. I'm not sure what your scrapyard likes to call what. You may have to separate the clean, bright yellow brass from all of the stuff with chrome plating on it, or tap brass. Mine doesn't care. I have tried this before, and a little bit of copper, a little bit of solder, doesn't matter, all goes in the clean brass. So I'm quite grateful for that, but it'll depend on what your local yard wants you to do. So plus there's 2 bins of, well, one of them is garbage. It's all the plastic and seals and all those things, and then the other one is the bits of steel. Time that took me, well, let's get some numbers, eh?
It's about 3 kilos, or almost 7 pounds of steel. Nearly 5 pounds, or 2.2 kilos of plastic and junk. Just about 11 kilos of dirty brass, or almost 24 pounds. It's 45 pounds, or 20 kilos of clean brass, and another 20 kilos, or 40 pounds of clean brass. Oh, and the zinc. About 6 pounds, or 2.75 kilos.
And those are our totals, and I have run the numbers. This one might be the most surprising yet. Might as well point this out. I normally like to finish these sorts of videos by taking them all in and getting the cash and showing that as the actual result. But unfortunately, I'm without a vehicular mode of transportation. So I called my scrapyard and got the numbers that they are currently offering. Those numbers right now are $2.75 a pound for clean brass and $2.20 a pound for dirty brass. That's in Canadian, and the $2.20 seems kind of high, but I'm not going to complain. Now, all of those numbers added up, if we had done nothing other than just load everything up into the truck and taken it and sold it the way it was, we would have had 102.8 pounds of dirty brass, and that would have gotten us $226.16. Okay. With everything cleaned and sold separately, getting $2.75 a pound for clean brass, 8 cents a pound for steel, and 45 cents a pound for zinc, yes, I'm including the zinc, we would have gotten a grand total of $236.94. Now, I think it's important to point out that this was not fast. This actually took me 2 sessions, total of approximately 6 hours, and if we knock off an hour for the fact that I was recording, let's call it 5 hours. So that means
That was a $10.78 difference, or $2.15 an hour. What? Now, just to be fair, I do think 220 is pretty high, so if we hadn't done anything, I was expecting a more typical price of $1.60 a pound for dirty brass. Even if we dropped down to a fictitious, really low price for dirty brass, we would have gotten $164.48 for doing nothing, which is a difference of, I didn't write that part down, but that is $14.49 an hour. But assuming $15 an hour is the minimum wage and thereby the absolute least you would accept, I am concluding it's probably not worth cleaning brass if the price difference between dirty and clean is less than 25% more. $2.15 an hour, that's honestly amazing. I am flat out stunned. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'll say this. I do not think I'll be spending much time cleaning brass going forward. Unless it's super, super easy, I'll have a bin of clean brass and dirty brass, but I think most of it is probably going into the dirty brass. Big chunky pieces that are super easy, sure, but I, for one, am pretty excited to have one more scrapping chore that I can feel good about not even bothering with. Now, I know doing these sorts of tasks can be cathartic or enjoyable or something to busy your hands with while you watch TV or whatever you're going to do. You could just sit and listen to music. And that's a separate type of value. I'm just here to share the numbers, and this is what I've found. Now, keep in mind, this is a sample size of 1, so I wouldn't hang a whole lot of weight on these conclusions, but from what I can see, cleaning and sorting your brass pays a maximum of $15 an hour, and if the difference between dirty and clean is less than 25%, as low as $2 an hour. I hope that was helpful information. I know I learned something that I will definitely be applying to all my scrap adventures in the future. So if you enjoyed this, thanks for hanging out, and you can show me by hitting the like button or subscribing for more high-value scrap metal content. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one. Leave it better than you found it. Keep doing the thing.